How difficult was it for you as a journalist to gain access to this city and to this group of people that you filmed?
Actually, I can say that it was really difficult to gain access to them. Once in Kherson, me and my fixer, we first met Victor, and then he led us to another partisan. Then the other one introduced this couple, Valentin and Olena, who are living on the riverside. And then their neighbor showed up, and he was in the network as well. It was pretty much the same story for Oler and Svetlana. So they can say everything, of course, about what they did, about their action, but overall, those people really want to talk about what they've been through, what they did. They really want to say about this history. Now the Russian left the city, so it was not really difficult to get access. You just have to spend time in the city, time with them. It was more difficult really to understand the process, how it works, how those kind of networks began, how did they work at the time with Ukrainian army. That was the most difficult part. For the military, for the soldier, it was of course a little bit different. I spent a long time with this unit without filming anything. They told me at the beginning that an operation is supposed to happen, but I didn't know which kind of operation. I didn't know where. I didn't know when. I didn't know anything actually of this operation. And this operation was cancelled several times. So I wasn't sure with them that at the end I will film something. And they just told me like a few hours before the operation that it's gonna happen, and they agreed for me to join them. So I was with the drone support on the Ukrainian riverside, and the most difficult job at this moment was, again, to really understand exactly what was happening.
Now, Gwendoline, many viewers will have noticed that France 24 hasn't chosen to blur the faces of the people that you've filmed, the vast majority of the people that you filmed in this report. Why did they want to be seen? Why were they so eager to have their identities shown on television?
Yes, of course. When you meet them, it's basically the first question you ask. There is many ways to film someone to guarantee that it will not be recognizable. But for Elena and Valentin, for instance, it was out of question. They do want to be filmed. They do want to tell the story. And at some point at the end, I asked Valentin, like, why did you talk to me? And he told me, I want the people in the world to know that not only Russian collaborators live on my island. So this was really important for them. And we have to remember that Kherson fell pretty much quickly at the very beginning of the invasion without much fight. So they really want to say that, no, some people did resist in the city, so it's very important to them. Plus, they live in a very dangerous area, if I speak for Valentin and Olena, constantly shelled by Russian forces from the other side of the river. The vast majority of the inhabitants of their neighborhood already left. They stay, they want to stay. They know that eventually they can die, of course. So they want as well to have their testimony to be recorded on camera somewhere. It was one of the reasons.
Okay, Gwendoline, do stay with us here on France 24. We're going to bring in our guest for this special edition. Her name is Dr. Marina Miron, and she's a research fellow at King's College London. Thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. You have, of course, watched the film that we've just aired. What did you make of it?
Well, thank you for having me. It was very interesting to watch the interviews with the resistance and how they helped the Ukrainian armed forces in Kherson by providing intelligence on Russian positions. And I'm sure their bravery will be rewarded. And it was perhaps not the most significant factor, but a very significant factor that has helped the Ukrainian armed forces in their effort to retake that part of Kherson, because the Russian side, they couldn't hold it anymore. And given the fact that their positions are being forwarded to the Ukrainian forces so that they know where to strike was making it very difficult for Russians to hold on to Kherson. And I'm sure that it's not the only partisan movement that is taking place, not just in Kherson, perhaps also in other cities. And we also can learn from that how important human intelligence is and how important communications are, where people are using their mobile phones to tag Russian positions, and how this is kind of changing the warfare, the games of the warfare.
Now, our reporter Gwendoline made this film in Kherson about people there resisting the Putin invasion, the Putin regime. But how common is this kind of resistance elsewhere in Ukraine?
Well, it is difficult to assess because we have seen some reports early on from Mariupol, but really neither Russian side nor the Ukrainian side says very much about it. And I think there is a reason for that, because there is a fear that, in the information spectrum, these people might be identified and they might be taken hostage. And as has been stressed in this report, these people are not armed. They have to disguise themselves in order not to be spotted by the Russians, and in order not to be tortured and questioned, in order to get information from them. So I think it is better if this is going on, and I'm sure to a certain degree it is going on in other parts where the Ukrainian forces are trying to retake territory, to keep this under wraps, because this puts at risk those informants working for the Ukrainian forces.
How can we account for the fact that this city was retaken by Ukraine after 9 months of Russian occupation?
Well, I think there are several factors at play here. While it is remarkable how brave the people were to risk their lives and to provide intelligence to the Ukrainian troops, we have also to remember that it coincided with other important things that happened. One of them, the Ukrainian armed forces have been provided with HIMARS systems on the one hand. On the other hand, it was also that time where Russia didn't have enough manpower, and Russia wasn't sure what is the way forward here, because initially they planned for a 3-day war and kind of using this decapitation strategy. They thought they would enact regime change in Kyiv and everything would be fine. However, the direction of the war wasn't clear. The political leadership wanted something from its military force that the military force wasn't capable of delivering, because it just didn't have the capabilities, it didn't have the manpower, and it wasn't prepared to do so, coupled with a fact that there was a complete chaos from the Russian side, because they didn't have a single theater commander overseeing the special military operation. Rather, they had 4 of them, and there was no kind of communication between these responsible for kind of different parts. And so when General Surovikin was appointed on October 17, 2022, to oversee this whole operation, seeing the situation and seeing that, they were trying to fix the mistakes, the Russians that is, was a partial mobilization, but those troops couldn't arrive on the battlefield fast enough. So they had to make a decision, and they decided to withdraw the good units that were in Kherson in order to save them and in order to take defensive positions along the left riverbank, of Kherson, because it wouldn't require so much manpower. So it basically, we have to look at the Russian logic of moving the troops out, and also at the Ukrainians kind of pushing in. So it's not, it's a combination of many factors that kind of led to the Russians to withdraw, as they were losing other territories such as Liman. They had lost Izum at that time. So it was important to concentrate the forces and shorten the line of contact with Ukrainian troops.
Okay, let's bring in now our correspondent, Gwendoline Debono, who actually made that film that you have just seen. Gwendoline, when you returned home and you'd finished editing this entire film, what was the big takeaway thing for you? What marked you most about the people that you had met?
Actually, I would say like how those people are brave, sure, but they are all really humble. No matter what their background is, their age, generally partisans during the months I spent with them, they spend the time to tell me we are not hero, we didn't do much, it was not really extraordinary, we just didn't have a choice. Well, actually, they did have the choice because in the city there were actually many collaborators as well, or just people who was living there and just doing nothing. But they all are really humble. And yes, when you are smuggling Kalashnikov through Russian checkpoint, of course, it's extraordinary. And you have this feeling to be inside a French history book. It was my feeling at the time with all this resistance action. You heard about it when you was at school, and it's happened in Ukraine. And yes, I was really, really marked by the fact that all those people are really humble, and they say constantly, the partisan, we are not heroes, the soldiers are the real heroes. And when you talk to the soldier who are actually working with the partisans, they say, no, we have weapons, we are a group, we are a unit, but they are real heroes. So everyone is really humble, calm, and I think this calm is because they know that the very existence of their nation is at stake.
Okay, Gwendoline Debono, thank you very much. Let's bring back in our guest this evening, Dr. Marina Miron, who is a research fellow at King's College London. My question to you now is, do you have any sense or feeling that this city of Kherson might eventually end up being in Russian hands once again?
Well, certainly there is a possibility, and we shouldn't exclude anything from happening. However, I think right now, for the Russians, it would make no sense to try and retake Kherson because they have some other priorities on the battlefield that they need to solve. And we're seeing a lot of action around Bakhmut right now. And the plan is to advance towards Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, which was kind of the initial plan. So I think that is the first priority. But depending on how far the Russians go and on their capabilities, as well as in what shape will the Ukrainian armed forces be, there might be attempts to indeed retake Kherson again, because in the overall kind of military strategic design, that would be a part that Russians will return to for sure. Whether they will succeed will obviously depend on many factors and is difficult to predict at this stage. However, it is certain that the Russians will try everything to regain it, and they will try everything to ensure that the Ukrainian side incurs as many losses as possible.
Okay, Dr. Marina Miron, thank you very much for being with us here on France 24 for this special edition. We're going to head back now to our correspondent, Gwendoline Debono, who, of course, made this film. Gwendoline, a final question. Are you still in touch with any of the people that you've filmed during this mission to Ukraine? And do they have any updates to share with you about what life is now like in this city?
Yes, actually, I'm in touch with every one of them. So Valentin and Elena, they are still living in the island in very difficult condition. They have to, they are like mortar shelled like several times a day. Oler is a mayor, so now he's working hard to rebuild the villages, to demine the field, to help his community to come back. Svetlana is doing pretty much the same because literally all the buildings of their village are completely destroyed. So last time I spoke with her, she was working on rebuilding the hospital. And the soldiers, they are continuing their mission. I know that the soldier was shot in the head, just awakened from a coma like 2 days ago. So guess I'm still in touch with every one of those guys.
It's a question that I asked our guest in this special edition, Gwendoline, and that question is, How common is this kind of resistance that you have personally witnessed and filmed? How common is that resistance against Putin in Ukraine?
It's still very active in the southern part of the country. And yes, we can say much about that, but it's interesting, like I made during this report as well, several interviews with officers, military officers, and they say resistance works pretty much everywhere. And especially in the eastern part of Ukraine, it's not like as much as it is in the southern part, but it works, and it's significant. It's a significant help for Ukraine armed forces.
Okay, Gwendoline.